Hey Jack, what happens when Imperial fighters race?
What happens when Imperial fighters race, mate?
It always ends in a tie.
Like it. That's one, yeah. Hello, Star Wars fans. Welcome to episode 87 today. We have a special guest joining us.
Wanna buy some death stick? Roger.
So be it, Jedi.
That's no moon. It's a space station.
Always a pleasure to meet you.
My allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy!
You failed, Your Highness. I'm a Jedi.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 87. And as always, thank you for joining me, Jack, Jimmy, and Charlie here at Explore the Force. Jimmy, I'm coming to you first. How's your week been?
Awesome. I worked one day
Ooh.
because we had snow days and wind days and Zoom days but we did get to swim meet in this weekend, so that was exciting. Lots of good swims. But yeah, great week.
Nice.
It's always good when you don't have to go to work. So but yeah, no, good week. Charlie, what about you? How was your week?
It's been easy, it's been cozy, it's been laid back, and mostly just trying to stay warm because here in the UK, as I'm sure Jack will attest, the temperatures have plummeted. I am Baltic constantly, frozen all the time. Jack, are you doing any better than me?
No, it's pretty much the same where I am as well in the UK. And it's not as big as America, but yeah, it's pretty damn cold. I've had quite a decent week as well. Work as normal. Back to football practice again. But yeah, lots of exciting announcements. One of them being it's definitely been released now. It's Tuesday today, I think. Yeah, Tuesday today. When this episode is released, we are going to Celebration Japan. We're going to be there hosting a panel, hopefully on the 18th around 11:30 a.m. off the top of my head. I think I've got that right. So yeah, if you're going to Celebration Japan, let us know. Let us know if you're going to be there as well. Look forward to more exciting announcements because at Explorer Force at the minute, we've had one hell of a week with Star Wars goodness. And that leads us nicely into the Force Encounters.
My ally is the Force.
Over on TikTok. I'm going to do it again tonight against Tuesday. I'll be doing it again. Watch me build the Onyx Index below on me there if you're watching on the YouTubes. And also, I'm going to be going to Festival of the Force, which is, I think it's a new company running Star Wars events here in the UK. That's happening at the end of this month in a place called Newark. And I'm going to be going with none other than Mr. Mark Newbold over at Fanfa Tracks. So me and Mark are teaming up. Going to go there. There's lots of awesome guests. So yeah, lots to look out for. Explore the Force is definitely exploring more of the Force in the UK. What about you, Charlie?
Oh, guys, listen. My Force encounter this week. So, one of our lovely members of Explore the Force put a nice little skeleton crew post on Instagram. Tag some of the cast, as you do, as is appropriate. Who's in the comments? Robert Timothy Smith. Who reposts it on his story? Robert Timothy Smith, none other than my boy Neil. I'm still screaming. I've screenshotted the notifications. I've sent it to everybody that I possibly know who's been watching Skeleton Crew. Like, look, it's Neil. There we go. Thank you.
And that's why she's wearing the blue tonight. If you're watching on the YouTube, what about you, Jimmy?
Yeah. Kind of more of the same, but you know what's funny to me is we love this universe, this galaxy of Star Wars, and there's times in your life where you feel like you get to act out or be a part of things. I can remember, for you guys who don't know, I was a Bradley fighting vehicle driver for a long time, and every time I put the helmet on, I would climb up into it and reach up and pull down my the top. I always felt like Luke Skywalker in the X-wing, the top's down, getting ready to go off in the war.
Nice.
And I get to do some public speaking here in a day or two, and I made reference to it to you guys this morning in our group chat about how I'm getting ready for my Luthen Rail moment, It's just funny to me, like, the speech is obviously it's important to myself and my work, But you still have a little bit of levity with it because, it's Star Wars and we love Star Wars. So I really enjoy that fact that we can kind of bring it into the real world. But yeah, so that's kind of my Force encounters. And of course, just the usual, enjoying everything. We got to talk a little bit extra. We'll talk about that in the news. So, and speaking of the news, man, what a segue by me. It's almost like we do this for a hobby or something. So let's go and head over to Bat 2 and see what's coming out of there.
The people in this crowd will soon be among almost 40,000.
For those who are among the 900 with news media or promotional tickets, the sneak preview probably would be the only chance to see the Empire Strikes Back.
All right, just like I said, part of my Force encounter was we got to talk a little bit on Friday because they have recast Balin's Skull. It's going to be Rory McCain, the Hound, and I think I went on a pretty cool journey with being like, to being like, over this. But if you want to check it out,
I think we all did.
it was really cool. And I mean, I think there's some people on our Facebook group that, I was reading their comments and I really loved it. And I said it in our review. You guys can go check out the review. It's up. It's like 15 minutes long. We just kind of talk about the news and how we're feeling about it. It's on Spotify and it's on YouTube as well. But I want to give a shout out to our listeners and our viewers and everyone that's, on the Facebook. Just, no one attacked me. A lot of people disagreed and thought like he was the perfect choice, but they kind of told me why and said like, you're an idiot, Jimmy, blah, blah, blah. Like they said, hey, this is why we think it's good. So I'm like, all right, well, let me, these are people I like to interact with and I respect. So I'm going to check that out. And just a big shout out to everybody on the Facebook for, being positive, not yelling at me. And I mean, honestly, you changed my mind. So thank you for that.
Nice. What else we got, Charlie?
We are building such a lovely and inclusive community on our Explore the Force Facebook group. And if you haven't joined already, you should go and join because it's actually really fun and lovely. My little bit of news this week, huge congratulations to one of my favorite Star Wars actors of all time, Warwick Davis, who is set to receive this year's BAFTA Fellowship. Congratulations to him. Very, very well earned and deserved.
Yes, indeed. Massive congratulations for us at Explore the Force. And other bit of news that we've got, it's rumour season. Ahsoka Season 2 is set to start. And we've also had a bit of rumours floating around that Ariana Greenblatt will return as the young Ahsoka. But the biggest news is apparently Ewan McGregor will reprise his role as Obi-Wan Kenobi, along with Hayden Christensen coming back as Anakin Skywalker. Prepare to have your socks blown off if that is the case. What's our thoughts on that? I'll start with you, Jimmy.
Yeah, Clone Wars, live action, Ariana. I feel like if you're watching on YouTube right now, Charlie's losing her mind. And that's how I feel on the inside. On the outside, I'm like a duck on water. I feel like this is probably a segue to something else. If this goes well and they do a good job with it, can you imagine the potential of a Clone Wars show or movie? Just gritty. Yes, please. And I mean, I love Ahsoka. And we got this news about Balin. Ah, man, Season 2. Oh, here we go. Here we go. What about you, Charlie?
I'm fine. I don't know what you guys are on about. I'm absolutely fine. No, anything that mentions my best boys, Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor, I'm there. I'm in it 100%. I can't scream because I'll blow the levels on the microphone, but you get my point.
Yeah.
Deliriously excited if it's true, which I sincerely hope it is, and it probably is. It most likely is.
It has to be. It has to be. And then, the last bit of news, again, to get everyone excited, is this week we hit 2,000 followers. So again, a massive thank you to everybody that's been following us from the start, that have just joined in. Even if you just joined in on this episode, thank you so much from myself, Jimmy and Charlie. It means the absolute world to us here at Explore the Force. And like we always say, there's so much more content to come. And we love doing this for you, the Star Wars fans. So this week, joining us, we have our own shipmate coming in hot from the Skeleton Crew. They've been in The Mandalorian, and multiple films, one of which you may have seen at Christmas, where he was a judge for Krampus himself. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the dastardly pirate himself, Captain Vane. It's our good friend and pirate legend, Marti Matulis.
Hello. Thanks for calling me a
Hello.
captain. I don't know who you've been talking to or what I just got elevated to, but I'll take the position. Thank you.
Well, now you're on your own. You're officially a captain.
I love it.
Thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate you taking the time. Obviously, you've been around the circuit, been to conventions. But for the people that aren't sure who you are, Marti, tell us a little bit about yourself, and also feel free to promote that amazing YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah. Well, Marti Matulis is the name, and apparently Creature Suit Performance has been the game, because that seems to be the niche I fell into a long, long while ago. Yeah, never, as most of these trajectories through the business are, it was never really a planned thing. It's just like you meet some people and they're like, you can wear makeup. You're not going to get claustrophobic and tear it. Okay, great. Let's put you in something. And then ... up to today. And now I've entered the beautiful Star Wars universe.
Nice. It's exciting to have you on here, Marti. we kind of got to talk last summer when you weren't really allowed to say anything.
Yep.
But you're here obviously because you've been in the Mandalorian, you're in the Skeleton Crew. Your association with Star Wars, which we're really excited that you're in and do everything that you're doing. Would you call yourself a Star Wars fan prior to entering this? Because some people, I remember there was a stuntman who's like, yeah, I don't watch television, and he was in like the Mandalorian episodes, and he was telling us, he's like, I had no idea what I was doing. I just go do stunts and then I leave.
Missing out. He's just missing out. I would say that in 1977, when I was a wee little lad, I was front and center watching that ship come right over my head as well. And that was the beginning of a huge change in my life as a young kid. Because of course, like when you don't have all the 24/7 content, back in the olden days, things came out quite irregularly. There were years between films, and you may only have one screen in your local theater. So Star Wars was everything from that moment until, maybe until mid-late teenage years. And I think Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of like switched my gears over to that direction, and adventure became more interesting. But even from that point and continuing on to today, I'm a big Star Wars fan. So much so that when I found out, well, we can get to it, but when I found out that Vane wasn't exactly going to meet his demise in Navarro as he originally was intended to, I was the first one like, well, what's next? Well, if he's going to live, then that means he could go somewhere, and that what's it going to be? So I was snooping. I was trying to find out, because
cool.
Not that I don't like spoilers, because I like to see something as it was intended, and I don't want to have any I do like trailers, but I won't watch them if it's too much. But yeah, I'm curious as anyone about what's coming up and how things are going to interrelate, and it's exciting.
Very cool. How many times did you go see it in the theater? Do you remember? Or...
Well, it was difficult to see Star Wars more than once, just by virtue of we were in the Midwest and small town, and it was trickier. So it came and then it went, and then we had the fanzine Bantha tracks to kind of carry us over. But when Empire came out, I remember, I think I saw that. That was the first film I probably saw more than once in the theater when it came out, because the first time I saw it, I was unprepared for a not happy ending. And I didn't know what to make of it. And I remember coming out of the theater, and my mom tells me to this day, she's like, you didn't like that. I was like, I didn't know that I did like it. I was confused, and I was a little like, I was wrecked. So how could I like it if I wasn't feeling good, But,
that would be tough for a 10-year-old to kind of wrap their head around.
For sure. So saw it again, saw it a third time, and then I was completely hooked. That's still my favorite, factoring in both the quality of the filmmaking, the story that they were telling, and kind of the nostalgia that's built into the time it came out. Still my favorite, although I'd say Rogue One is like a very close second now.
Yeah.
Heavy hitters. They're both heavy hitters.
You've answered my question for me. Obviously, first of all, it's an absolute pleasure to meet you. This is fantastic.
Likewise.
This is so much fun already. Thank you. I was going to ask you, do you have a favorite Star Wars film? But clearly it is Empire, closely followed by Rogue One.
Near and dear to my heart. Yeah. And as we said, not just for any one reason or even just how it slots into the Star Wars world, but as the more I learned about filmmaking, the more I came to appreciate it as a piece of cinema. I think
Yeah.
there are frames in that are just beautiful, and there's like that moment when they're closing the shield doors. It's just too late and getting too cold. That build and showing each character of like the implications. No one was talking. It was just that build and music and the door rumbling closed and then Chewie throwing his head back. It was so wrenching. So good. And that, Star Wars aside or inclusive, that's all I want from cinemas, to be affected. I want to feel something. And it doesn't have to be from blinky, splody, talk, 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 talk. It can be from a very quiet moment that feels like something in your heart.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And clearly
100%.
that's how I approach
Skeleton Crew.
Vane. I really wanted to make people feel something for him.
I think people are definitely feeling something for Vane. Yeah, they're definitely feeling something.
Confusion as to why he's in the show. I've heard that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the connection. I know we'll get to it, but I love the fact that like you got these things and you're showing everybody, like, because there's always a lot of confusion about when these shows air, and you're the one thing that kind of
bridges
so far that branches at, and it's a kind of like, I mean, you're pioneering.
My first time playing connective tissue.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned as well. Go on, Marty. Sorry.
No. I think this may be all tying in, but I think initially I'm kind of trying to appraise the responses out on the internet a little bit without getting too caught up in it. And in the build-up, there was a lot of speculation because, of course, I was the only thing that was indicated to be directly connected to the Mandalorian, to this new show. And so I think there was a lot of like, well, what's he going to be? And there was a lot of speculation around that character. And now that the show's out, you see that he's not like, he's just kind of an underling in this new crew. Like he's a recognizable character, but he's not like a major thing that's affecting change, like directly calling back to like the Mandalorian and Grogu and Navarro, which I think as a viewer is great. Like I wouldn't want there to be too much distraction from this show by having a bunch of callbacks just for the sake of reminding us that he came from this show, the other show. So with the exception of, Marti as the actor wanting to always do more, to have more to play with. I love the way they treated it and didn't overplay his appearance in the show. Yeah,
massively. And you could have any character like that really and have a massive backstory of how he actually joined the crew, why he's joined, etc. But at the end of the day, it's a pirate just trying to make a living.
Right.
You also mentioned about the cinema and how it affected you, and that's the sort of moment you had. And I think that's been one of the major strengths of Skeleton Crew. At some point in that series, it's definitely affected everybody that's watched it. I mean, the latest episode was a big tearjerker, but the one previous, I think it was No Friends, was probably the biggest tearjerker going. It's obviously left us with lots of memorable moments already, same as The Mandalorian. But do you have a memorable moment whilst you were on the set of the Skeleton Crew and also The Mandalorian?
Well, on set Mandalorian, it's an easy choice to say that anytime Carl was around was kind of the best moment, and I know it's rough to imagine that he's not with us anymore, even right now, but he was the first guy to welcome me to the set. He didn't know me from anyone, and I don't, we didn't meet before I was in makeup. He only knew me in makeup. But it didn't matter. He welcomed me in. We were peers on the day, just looking to improve a scene and work. Yeah. He was there to work. He loved the art. And throughout the entire 2 days we shot, he was always available, always wanting to run lines. On break, I don't typically sit and eat because it can impact the makeup. So I will take my lunches and just go sit somewhere. So I was like, well, I'm probably never going to get to sit on this set again. So I just found a bench in that Navarro courtyard and I just sat down and
love it, just
staring. And he came over and sat down and he must have spent a half an hour just telling me stories about his days in Hollywood when he first came in as a young man.
Oh my goodness.
Nice. So slam dunk, easy for that. And then for Skeleton Crew, apart from finding out that I was actually going to be given a bigger role in this other show, like that was above and beyond unexpected gift. I think just walking in every day with the kids and having their response to the aliens that they were getting to know on a daily basis. Before the cameras rolled, we were all just joking around, and they took great joy in reminding me that I had no nose and that they probably had taken it and it was in their pocket. Like there was a lot of like eyeballs, nose grabs across the volume. They were delightful. They were just little chaos machines, but also
Nice.
kind of preternaturally mature in their own right. Like they're solid little actors, but
Yeah, they're impressive.
It's
because you always hear, Hollywood types say, don't work with kids and don't work with animals. And we were concerned as viewers because, sometimes kids don't deliver, and but man, these kids are just
right.
outstanding.
Yeah, it can be tough. I think because of the sensibility that we already see that John Watts kind of set the tone, and that tone is maintained, that it is a nostalgia machine. It does make me feel like I felt when do you have a Rancor mug, Jimmy?
Yes, I do. And it holds cookies in its mouth too.
Hold up. Jimmy, what's that over there? Look. That's lovely. Do. Thank you. Yeah, the kids were great. And I got to credit John. John and Chris both. Clearly, if you saw their Spider-Man movies, they had that John Hughes influence going on those.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the hallmark for me of a really good filmmaker is if you can not only have a good idea for a story, but then infuse it with the feeling that you want the audience to feel. Here we go. Here we're talking about feels again. It's a delightfully nostalgic trip. And I think because of that, they knew how they wanted the kids' characters to be. And I think it was pretty easy for them to then nudge these kids who already have those personalities. Like there's no massive acting shift. I think part of the key is, of course, getting kids who have the sensibility and the intelligence you're looking for, which they did 100%.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. I love this story about Carl. It's always sad to me though, because we talked to Brendan Wayne and he's he says the same stuff, and I just wish we got to know these things when they were still with us. It's a shame that it takes their passing for us always but I'm glad to hear that, because growing up with Rocky and all this stuff and Predator, and just awesome to hear what a great guy he was, and I'm glad you got to spend that time with him. And you talked about being vain and not being able to mess. What is that process like for you? The prosthetics. We hear these, every Christmas time you hear the horror stories of Jim Carrey becoming the Grinch, and he had to go under like torture training or something because it was so miserable. Like, what is your day like becoming vain?
Well, if I'd been there on the Grinch, I would have had a word with Mr. Carey and given him what for, because they've gotten a lot of mileage out of that story of how awful it was and how torturous it was. It's rough. It can be really uncomfortable, but no one's trying to hurt you. Everyone's going to do everything they can to make you as comfortable as possible within the time frame and the constraints of the show. So on any of these gigs, you're typically brought in an hour to 2 hours to 3 hours to sometimes 6 hours before crew call. So the makeup trailer is the first one with the lights on. You roll in cold, freshly shorn, and ready for a big cold swab of glue to go across your face. And you start it. And honestly, after that initial like kind of gearing yourself up for the discomfort, it's not so bad. Everyone starts to warm up and wake up, and coffee starts kicking in, music's playing, and then it becomes kind of this, a communal period of time for a few hours where these artists are working their art. And then I get to have the luxury of observing it close and, up close and personal, watching. It's always in front of a mirror so they can check and turn back and check. So I'm always facing their work as it's going on. And then Vane in particular, he was relatively short as they go. I think I keep pondering it because I think we had a time that we locked in on. And we were pretty happy about it, but I think it was just about 2 hours, maybe an hour and 45. So as they go, pretty easy.
Well, that's not too bad then.
Not so bad. Yeah, the contact lenses are always a thing, but they're not too much of a thing. These were comfortable, kept them in all day. They'll come around and, make sure you have drops and that you are comfortable, and anything goes awry, you just pop them out, clean them, put them back in. Jim, you hear that, Jim? I joke, but I'm sure that was a really intense makeup, and I know that there's
Yeah.
the big difference between just hiding your iris and having a full scleral lens that changes the color of the white. The sclerals can be pretty rough.
If you could choose another character or a type of character, Marty, who or what type of character would it be? If you had the choice.
Let me zip up my black, dark soul turtleneck. The Sith are pretty snappy dressers most of the time, and it's always
You do
fun.
like your dark side characters, though, don't you?
It's pretty fun to play those. Anyone who knows me, as you may see, there's kittens running around. I'm not doing them any harm.
Yeah, no.
They're having a great time. I was a early education major in college, and I love kids. But as an actor, finding those aspects of yourself that you don't deal with or play with or even have, trying to generate something to have a believable character that is completely different than you is kind of the craftsman challenge that has interested me in acting. Like, I wasn't like a theater kid. I didn't do musical theater. I wasn't one of those like, I have to perform and you have to watch me. It was more like, I'm an introvert. I like the isolation of breaking a character down and figuring out what makes them tick and building them back up. And a proper baddie, there's always more opportunity for play in that to see what makes them tick and why in their own minds they're not bad. They don't think they're bad. They're just trying to accomplish something. I'm watching Kevin Durant's performance in the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes right now.
Oh,
that's great. He did great work in that. You might get caught up in the fact that you're looking at this bad ape, and within the confines of watching it as a fan, you're like, oh, that was a cool monkey. But to go from zero as an actor and discover these things and work with the director to develop that and the voice and the physicality, that's a damn fine performance from Mr. Durand.
He was outstanding.
Yeah. But I haven't seen the end, so don't spoil that.
Oh, I won't tell you. It's great though.
My lips are sealed. Marty,
Yes.
you spoke about some like lovely memories with the kids on set in Skeleton Crew. I have to know what they were like. They obviously have such incredible energy. I know Jack got to go to the press event in London and said that they were fantastic, even though it was freezing that day.
Was that the one out at
Tell me a little
Trafalgar?
bit more.
The outdoor one at Trafalgar? Yeah, that looked a little brisk.
It was.
They are exactly as they come across in their characters and in all of the press. I don't think they're putting anything on. I think that's just them, and they are distinct, high energy, smart kids. And Robert in particular, you can always rely on him to say something that is completely unexpected. Sometimes you might think appropriate, inappropriate. No, he's hilarious. I love it. Like, he's hilarious. He's a funny kid, really funny and sharp-witted. I think Ryan, because we had more direct interaction, some more of that was more like I see you. Oh yeah, I see you. Kind of like sly, Yeah. They're all just really great. I didn't get to chat too much with Kiriana. Not a whole lot with Ravi, a little bit with Ravi. So it was mostly more kind of observational, as they were working with the directors and getting themselves set on their side.
Yeah.
Except that there was that one day in Port Borgo when they cut out of it much quicker in the edit for the show. But it's when SM gets shot the first time, all the rest of the pirates come up. I come in like rubbing my chest from the punch. And then it finishes with Ravi going, "Brig? What's a brig?" Well, after that, we had shot kind of us approaching them to take them to the brig. And I came up and I saw SM and I gave him a little kick. And then we all just kind of circled around the kids. Well, there was one take when we were getting closer to the kids and we realized at this point we must be blocking them because the cameras were behind us. And we heard the director going, "Keep going, keep going, keep going." And we just kept getting closer and closer. And I was the first one to break. I was like, my eyes were going wide because like, we're going to be stepping on these kids. And Ravi was the one. He's like, "You, bro, it was you." So they had no problem slinging an appropriate amount at us as well. They're delightful. I hope we get to. I have heard nothing, and I couldn't say if I had. But if Vane or any other tall, thin alien gets to come back if there's a season 2. If that'd be a treat to work with them
It
again.
needs to be.
A few years on now that they've grown
needs
into
to be.
surly teenagers.
Yeah, that's the only problem, right? Is like those
I
kids at that
wonder.
age, they're going to sprout. They're going to be young
Yeah.
adults by the time you guys get around to filming again.
Yeah, I mean,
if that
getting an
opportunity
approval, having the build up, writing it, it's at least another year or 2 away from even shooting it, and then the process after is another year. Like,
because they just announced Spider-Man 4, and I'm assuming Watson Ford will be headed off to that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure who. I just know Tom Holland has finally announced that they're
he's
starting
doing
work.
it.
Yeah.
Great. Good job, Tom.
You've worked with some real life kids. I have to ask about maybe some CGI kids, some of the younger stars. How was it working alongside Grogu, and is he as much of a diva as the press have speculated?
Tedious. We could have been out of there in 6 hours if it weren't for the constant demands.
Oh, I can only imagine.
You know what? So I was excited when I heard he was going to be on set. Because I'm also a technical nerd, I want to know how things work, and obviously the magic is always a little bit over here because you know how things go. So I wanted to see how much CG would they have to do to make him seem like really more realistic. They did such an amazing job designing, sculpting, molding, and then painting. Like, he's, other than removing the gear, the cables and controls and whatnot, I don't think they did much of anything for touching him up. I think he was almost 100% practical, except when you see him like from a real distance when he's leaping and jumping. Sometimes he's on a rod, but then he's probably CG. The Grogu that I worked with was just 100% there, and they know the guys who run him are always looking to kind of warm up and practice. So I had an interaction with him. I kind of walked over and bent down and was just kind of giving him the critical eye. And then he kind of came to life, and we just started chatting after that. It was delightful.
I would have burst into tears. Honestly, I would have burst into tears.
I've been asking, I don't know who else to ask. Someone has a picture of gigantic Vane leaning down going, while Grogu is chatting with me.
Good money to see that.
That's the only thing I want in life anymore is a copy of that photo.
That's awesome. Yeah. Our friends.
We need to get on that.
Yeah, Tamara and Dawn over at Legacy Effects, they do amazing work at Legacy Effects, don't they?
Yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah, it's unreal. So
my up close and personal was working in the Borgo scene when the kids are coming in, when they split off and the two are grabbing lunch and Vane comes over, and the crustacean fellow, I think that they titled him Greasy Creature, but
nice.
The one that Dane was inhabiting, who played the Predator and Prey.
Yeah.
And he and I knew each other prior, so we were just kind of hanging out that day. But he was attended to by a group of Legacy artists who were getting him set and running the controls for the mouth.
Nice.
And I love that stuff. I mean, as I mentioned before, I appreciate and enjoy the technical aspects. So I'm always curious to see what they're up to. Puppeteers and the guys running the volume. Every time we'd come out, I'd stand there and just stare at their stuff. Like, what can you tell me? Can you tell me things? Tell me more. What does that button do?
Make it do the thing.
Yeah, make that stuff happen. Can you put that? Oh, you can do that? Wow. Marty. Oh, yeah. Sorry. We have to, supposed to be doing something.
Are you allowed to go on set and things like that? So if you're not filming that day, were you allowed to go in and watch things, or is it pretty secretive?
Just by virtue of what it takes to get onto the lot, and then how do they get you from here to there? Where would they put you? It's too hard when you're not scheduled for the day. But when you are scheduled, I think for the first few days, when we weren't shooting, they would want to go put you in your room so they know where to collect you and there's no lost time. But after that, when I kind of saw how things were running, I would let someone know on set, I'm not going to go back to my room. I'm just going to stay here. And there was one day, I think maybe before I said that, when I didn't say where I was going to be, I saw a couple of, I'd positioned myself out on, I was just sitting on a crate because I wanted to watch the volume and wanted to see things change and move and just to stay involved. And I heard a little bit of scurrying on walkie-talkies. And then at one point someone looked over and oh, you would have thought I'd gone to Vegas for the day, but yeah. And then I realized they don't really care, so I could just kind of stay on set all day if I wanted to, as long as they know where to find you when they need you.
Very cool.
Love it. I love all these little stories. Have you got any funny stories that have happened on set? I know Brendan Wayne, he shared the time that he was struggling to get in and out the M1 Starfighter. Well, that's hilarious. You got any hilarious stories?
I mean, I don't know, but no pressure, hilarious. But I think getting into it.
Jack, damn.
Yeah, you tell me a hilarious story when we're done with this not too hilarious story.
Got plenty.
But getting into now the Starfighter, that does bring up a good point, because when on the morning I found out that I was not in fact going to be killed in the Navarro shootout, they did a little shuffling. They put me into that dogfighting scene where originally I was not scheduled to be in that. And so they get you all 100%, and they come out onto the set, and you squeeze yourself down into the cockpit, and the gentleman with the power driver comes up and is like, "Where do you want the handles?" I was like, "Here." And he's like, "Great." And he just tacks him to the floor. There was not one reason why I needed to be wearing pants or boots.
Oh boy.
It would have been a lot more pleasant for everyone if I hadn't, because the heat does rise. And in fact, in that scene, I've mentioned it before, and I would apologize to the makeup artist for calling attention to this, but like there's a buckle in his throat makeup because of the sweat. At that point, it was just like, it was starting to come loose.
Oh, yes.
And once it goes, there's not much you can do except just hope for the best.
Grin and bear.
So there you go. There's your hilarious sweaty, no-pantsed alien story.
No-pantsed alien.
Hold you over.
Marty, I'm sure you're going to realize pretty quickly who wrote this question, but what was it like to work with Jude Law, and who's more handsome, Jack or Jude? Or are they, because
Jack or Jude?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're both pretty fancy. Jude is delightful. We had, I'd say, a couple days where there was enough proximity to interact, but for the most part, he's got the burden of being number one on the call sheet, so there's not a lot of time to come up and start poking him for questions or asking him how cool he thinks I look. We never went that route. But there was one day when, in fact, it's the episode that just aired, episode 7, when it's the whole airlock ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
And when the Onyx Cinder comes up on the 3D display. So prior to that, I was just on a console doing whatever I was doing, pushing random buttons. And there was a lot of downtime that particular day. And at one point, Jude was kind of wandering the set around that big center table. And he came up to a panel. In fact, I think it was the panel that I threw Jaleel off of to get the ship kind of thing.
Yeah. Really the ship.
Regardless, Jude was kind of inspecting things, and he was doing what we all 5-year-old, gray-haired 5-year-olds do, is just like poke buttons, move switches, and go, "Wow, look at that!" And so I looked around. He wasn't clearly working hard, so I kind of leaned in and was like, "Hey, Jude, are you having a little nerd out moment right now?" He's like, "My kids would love this." Yeah, he was there to have. He was just there to have fun, and it's a testament to his professionalism and time in the business that I think he did kind of take the kids under his wing, and I think he taught them a lot about professionalism on set, how to work with character, how to interact, like how to convey emotion while there's a camera and 20 people staring at you. He was delightful to see in action as a veteran actor.
Very cool.
Nice.
And Vane was a lot cuter. To answer your question,
we'll have to put that up as like a poll on our Instagram and see what the fans have to say.
Yeah, perfect.
Great idea.
Speaking of our fans, I am apologizing in advance to the Star Wars listeners and the Star Wars fans. Marty, I had such a lovely dig through your IMDb. You have been in so much Star Trek. I am a lifelong Star Trek fan.
Oh, fun.
You've been in Enterprise, you've been in Picard, you've been in Insurrection. I have to ask the ultimate question. What's better, Star Trek or Star Wars?
Oh, no.
What did you say? What's better?
Oh,
is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Whichever one lets you be there more days.
Nice. Great answer. Perfect.
Thank you.
They're
Done.
all delightful. I think, yeah, there's no real way to compare, at least from my perspective, which is so far removed from like the greater workings of it. They must both be fun to write. Seems an entirely creative world to create. I like the kind of rough and tumble of Star Wars, and that was more my world when I was growing up. So I think I have a more direct and deep affinity for the Star Wars world. But as a young actor, the first thing that happened when I went to LA was this cattle call for Insurrection. That was the Baku, back when I had my long shaggy hair, and they wanted a bunch of space hippies, and I was one of the core group for the better part of, I think, almost 3 months on that as a backgrounder.
Wow.
And so that kind of made me realize what the potential was for being an actor, how to approach being on a set. Like, it was hugely educational, and I got to see Patrick Stewart. That's kind of like he was the Jude Law of that show, and he was around for a lot of it. And Charlie, you may enjoy this little factoid that when they brought, you remember the film well enough, yes? So when they brought the Baku up, it was the caves. We were doing the caves sequences, but outside the caves, we were actually up on these mountains. And they had helicoptered us all up. I don't know how they got away with that. They were just running helicopter runs to drop us all up on the rocks. And it was another one of those moments where even then I knew, like, I don't need to start just chit-chatting and calling attention to myself. But if there's a moment I have a legitimate question, I'm not going to miss the opportunity. And there was one opportunity. Yeah. It was just Patrick Stewart, and I was kind of sitting on a rock close by, and everyone kind of went off, and he was just observing. Like, we were on a really beautiful section up by where were we? There was a lake by Mammoth. Anyway, it was up kind of in the eastern Sierras. Yeah. And he was sitting there, and I had noticed him and Gates McFadden, when they were preparing for a scene, they both would kind of like, I was completely confused by what was happening. The makeup artist would come up, but they'd close their eyes and kind of look away. And I had no idea what was happening. And I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Stewart, sir?" He's like, "Yes." And I was like, I got the yes, and it sounded just like him. So this must be really happening. And I asked him, I was like, "So what is that that's happening when you close your eyes and you look off? Is that some sort of an acting trick that I can absorb from you?" And he's like, "Well, you see what you do." And I'm not going to try to do his voice, because why would I? But anyway, he said, "So when it's sunny out, you don't want to squint and blink when the camera's on you. So if you close your eyes, but you look to the sun for a good 15, 20, 30 seconds, then when you look back and you open your eyes, you won't squint and you won't blink." And I would just did this, and I backed away slowly. And that was my interaction with Sir Patrick Stewart.
Wow.
Nice.
And now I give it to you.
Yeah. I am keeping that for my cosplay shoots. Genuinely so helpful.
There you go.
Thank you.
We can all thank Patrick Stewart for that one. Yeah, it was lovely.
Oh my
Nice.
goodness.
Earlier, Marty, you mentioned about, you weren't supposed to be in that dogfight scene. Right. When Vane abandoned Gorian Shah during that showdown with Mando and Bo,
intelligently saved his own hide.
Yes, intelligently so. Did you know at that point you'd be seeing your character again, or did you start to think, hold on a minute, something's going on?
It was prior to that. So yeah, I'm trying to piece this together and look for any landmines along the way that I shouldn't step on. I think we're in the clear. It was the morning of that very first day. It was after the makeup test. When we did the full costume and makeup test, I started getting an inkling of like, right, I'm not a pullover. They didn't do a pullover rubber mask because the artists wanted to do a prosthetic makeup. And I was thrilled that they did a prosthetic makeup, because that's what I've done for 20 plus years. But when all the cameras came out, Doug Chang was inspecting me very closely, and our director was up on a FaceTime, and Jon Favreau was on a FaceTime. That's when I started kind of like thinking like something might be going on here. So whether there is or isn't, I'll just crank it up to 11, and we'll see. We'll give them a good show for this. Yeah. And then it was the first morning when we were blocking that scene, the shootout scene, that John said, "Yeah, we're gonna not kill you off because that's cool." And so that was it at that point. And then there were a few back and forth messages about whether, if or where they could fit me into to the season, which the following message was that, alas, they could not, but I'll be on Star Wars ice for the future should something come up. And then it was a relatively short period of time after that they said, there's this new show and we're going to port some pirates over to that show. So hang on. And then after that, it was
Nice.
Okay, so we're going to raise Vane's visibility up. Let's bring you in for a day to do the dogfight scene. Apologies
Awesome.
to whoever was doing the dogfight scene, but I was thrilled to take his place, even though I was sweaty and didn't
Coming
need to wear
through.
pants. Yep.
Wow. So they
Nice.
making those decisions while they were filming season 3. Like while you're on set, they're making these decisions and calling you back. And that's crazy.
Yeah, I think
Always
because
that
he was
lucky.
only in that first episode early in the season, and it would have been
Yeah.
such a wait. And the shootout was fun, but would people remember this character? Would they wwonder why if he didn't have a little more visibility? So,
Yeah, that's true. That's a really good point, actually.
And
did
I
have
love
quite a big
because
impact, though.
yeah, that was great. I think that also contributed though to the people questioning now, like, why isn't Vane doing more in Skeleton Crew? Because he outflew the Mandalorian a couple of times. He clearly has a little bit of skill there, and he has just enough skill to not get killed. But as we said, the fact that he's not overly featured in this show, I think, really works to its advantage. The show, Skeleton Crew, it needs to and it does completely stand on its own. There's so many Easter eggs and so much fan service. If you want to delve, you can be rewarded. But from a story standpoint, it doesn't need to have a connection to the Mandalorian.
No.
It's just nice that there is that parallel to kind of lock you into the time frame, either slightly before, slightly after. I think that's still a little bit unclear.
I was going to ask you, do you know which show?
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't. I've always internally
Gorian's
played it
still
that
out
I flew off from Gory and I'd had just enough fuel to get to Port Borgo, and then I just jumped on this other crew. That's my internal, just so I could have something to kind of land on. But there's been no indication.
All right.
Nor would they tell me. I think because anything that doesn't get me what I need just to do the job for the day, they're not going to offer up, because anyone can slip, and then the secrets, the wildfire of not to use that term, but YouTube can just take whatever and just explode it into speculation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, that's crazy. This show, we have loved it. We have a fourth host, the mailman, and he's actually celebrating his birthday today, and he is at the Pittsburgh Penguins hockey game. And we've been reviewing every show, and we love it. Prior to that, we had The Acolyte. Now, we liked The Acolyte. Obviously, it was not universally accepted by all Star Wars fans and people. Were you guys nervous because, you were supposed to come out prior to The Acolyte, and of course, with the writer's strikes and everything and actor strikes, you guys got pushed. It was my understanding you got pushed because of those. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever know that, but were you guys worried at all? Like, is the backlash going to get Skeleton Crew? Were you pretty calm? Because this is very different, So, like, you guys, we think they're just calm and like, this is completely different. People are gonna love this. This is, Goonies. This is ET in space. Like, were you guys confident, or were you just? I mean, was there any concerns about just the way the fandom can be sometimes? That maybe there'd be some. I mean, we were worried that they'd go after the kids, and I was like, that's going to be
sure.
So.
Legitimate concern. I saw that there was a lot of effort put into various channels' comments of like, be nice, everybody. Come on. We all know what we want to rip into, but let's take it easy on the kids, which is a good, reasonable, mature response in this world of anonymity where people's worst instincts can fly out before you even know what's happened. The only point of contact kind of during, but certainly after the fact, like, I don't have a lot of contact with people involved in the production. Some of the ADs, the makeup artists, and then I keep up with a few of my fellow pirates, just to kind of be like, hey, have you heard anything? I don't know. Have you heard anything? Nah. Okay.
What's the chat group called?
Yeah. Hang on. Let me give me the WhatsApp right now. So most of that speculation has been internal. I don't live in the LA area. I'm up in Oregon. So I'm pretty isolated from the world. We don't like go grab a drink these days.
Yeah.
So the speculation has been me as a more broad filmmaker type. Like I'm an editor, I'm a musician, I'm a cinephile. I sit here with Letterboxd and check things off as I watch them and like rewatch things. Like
Yeah.
the cinephile brain in me was wondering about the release, the pushes.
Yeah.
Clearly the strikes had an effect. Clearly, I think maybe not so much the strike, but maybe the desire for a seasonal release had an effect as to the flip flop between Acolyte.
Yeah.
And then me as a critical viewer watching the Acolyte, I thought, oh man, now we're gonna have a hill to climb, because the reception of that, right or wrong, good or bad, the reception of that clearly is going to have an impact on the fan base. And I think that though there's such a deep love for Star Wars, I think that over time, for all the reasons, the fan base has taken a bit of a hit. And I think for some of them, it's been hard to kind of stay on board. For others, everyone's like hoping. And I think the ones that have stuck around have been hoping are being rewarded. This is a really lovely show.
Yeah.
And I think it is unfortunate that it's come after so many things that didn't have such a warm reception. If it were up to me, I think if they led with Skeleton Crew way back when, before Kenobi, maybe like in between Mando and Boba Fett, if they'd like stuck in this kid show, that probably just like energetically probably would have been the best opportunity for this side shoot offspring of the world, because it's within the world, but kind of without the world. So it would have slotted in nicely there. And I think the fans would have been more receptive and there would have been more viewership. I don't know enough about how streaming works these days to think that it's going to exist on the channel and then keep building just by word of mouth viewership. That's my hope now, because I don't know what the numbers are like, but someone was saying it's kind of like Andor, the viewership is low and it's lower than the Acolyte. Maybe, but it's a delightful show. Like everyone who loved the original trilogy should be watching this, and you're going to get a bit of that little I keep saying nostalgic hit, but that's really it. Like it makes me feel like I felt when I was watching the original Star Wars. And it's fun and sharp, and there's a mystery. There's a great mystery on top of this. Watching the kids bumble about is like one aspect of it. The Easter eggy fan service, another aspect, but there's like this really good mystery going on of angles. Yep.
Yeah, and it's been I mean, it's awesome because it's just been drawn out, and every time we think we know something else would come out, and it just kind of driving that story forward. I think people get a little impatient now with the days of streaming and binging. They want to know, and they've kind of lost. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm older, but I appreciate the week to week, the story building. Don't judge it till it's over, and people want to just. But it's been an awesome ride. I'm kind of sad that Tuesday's the end. Like I'm like,
they're so short.
Looking forward to it, and then it's over. We sit there and just.
They're paced well. They're fun episodes. They always end on like that wonderful little cliffhanger, but they're just a little too short.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I wish they were maybe 12. It'd be nice to have a little more time with the world. And
agreed.
I can again, I'm just speculating, but I can assume that they didn't want to put too much into it, but they wanted enough that if it were of interest, that they could justify and rally for a second season. Which I hope they do. I hope they do.
Yeah.
I think that would probably garner a lot more viewership, because then we'd be coming off of Andor season 2.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot more kind of a resurgence of interest and trust in the brand at that point too.
Yeah. For sure.
To excite people, to get more people amped up front and not so concerned.
So obviously, maybe the on paper ratings are not quote unquote the best for Star Wars, but I think obviously you can see even now the huge influx of support from Star Wars fans. We've got Neo Nation. We love these kids to absolute pieces. Was there a point for you, kind of either on set or when you were watching the episodes after they came out, where you realised this is what Star Wars fans have wanted? Because I think Skeleton Crew has come at a good time. We're a bit burnt out, we're a bit disappointed. Star Wars hasn't quite been what we thought it could be. Skeleton Crew feels like that refresher that we've desperately needed.
I think from the backside of Vane's makeup, looking outward, the I'm trapped inside. I just want to get out. The days, I think it was a day or maybe 2 days we shot the cafeteria scene with the credit when Vane first shows up.
Yeah.
Certainly saw that they'd put a lot into it. Like the design was great, the floor set was great, the volume blows my mind. I just wanted to stare at it all day long. But then that follow-on scene in the main area of the port when SM falls and the whole crew comes out, just seeing how massive, like they used every square inch of the floor of the volume, and then as you saw, like the parking lot outside and the field around. I think that's when I kind of was starting to realize, like, okay, well, I've seen the temperament of the writers and the directors. I've seen the willingness and effort put into giving these kids a good experience on set, and the result in their performances. I'm like, this is going to be amazing. I can't wait. And from then on, that never changed. It was always very positive on set. It was always very playful and enthusiastic. I think everybody was excited to be there. And at that point, we didn't have any reason not to be. It was a delightful story that they were telling at a very high level.
Yeah.
If you hear any strange squeaking, by the way, I have a cat that's taking a nap and he's decided to start snoring right over here. Oh, buddy.
That's okay. Extra guests are always welcome.
Yeah.
I'm just going to show him. He's right.
Oh, there you go. Oh, yeah.
All curled up and snurfling away.
I've got one last question for you about the volume.
Last,
yeah. I mean, if you want more, we can ask more questions. But
sure.
So, during Kenobi and some parts of The Mandalorian, people have criticized the volume because you can always tell, like, when they're on the volume. I will say that it seems like, I don't know, you've been on sets for different things. It seems like for the Skeleton Crew, I couldn't even tell you when the volume was being used. It seems like maybe you feel like been from Mando season 3 to this, they've kind of starting to figure out, because I always thought spacing was a problem. There's scenes where like the Mandalorians are training, you're like they're on the volume because they're all in these really weird places, and it just seemed to me, I mean, I don't know, I could be completely wrong, but in this series, I haven't been able to tell when they're on the volume and the spacing. Like you just told me, you just said like that was filmed on a volume. I'm kind of blown away by the fact that with the spacing and things, like I didn't even notice. Like I thought that's awesome.
Same.
Yeah. Boy, I've got a few thoughts about that one. I think that you are correct. I think that they have certainly had enough time with it to understand its strengths and weaknesses. And I think that John Watt's sensibility up with Jon Favreau's sensibility as well in the development of the technology, they see how to maximize its benefits. And I think clearly it's long lens stuff where you're just seeing what's really happening and the stuff behind isn't so hugely in focus, or the wide open, let's see the entire world to establish it. I think, and this is more the filmmaker Marty brain kind of working on it right now. But I think that if you're doing a lot of kind of relying on more traditional over the shoulder medium shots, at some point you're going to be like, okay, already, like, can we go somewhere else? But it really does well to establish things. It really does well to provide backgrounds for the close-ups. But no matter how you slice it, the technology is never worse than it is today. It's always getting better. And what it does and what it has to do is allow for the pacing of a television show. You don't have multiple years to do all of the effects. You've got a time frame. And this solves 90% of that problem. Like when I would not be on camera, I would go around and look at the monitors, and then you don't have to be subjected to kind of the odd bounding box. If I'm getting too far in the weeds, let me know and I'll explain. But there's this bounding box. There's a bounding box around what the camera can see. And if you're on a long lens, the box gets smaller and you're seeing that the camera is seeing this section of it. And then if the camera is going to move, the computer thing knows that all the elements, here you go. Perfect. All of these elements need to track, because if they don't, it's flat as a pancake. But if the computer knows that the camera is going to move this way, then the elements in the volume can then also stack or spread to give you all of that depth information. So moving
Nice.
camera shots, I think, help your brain think that I'm not looking at a flat background. So anytime there's movement, I think it lends itself really well to the technology. And then there's also, just to cap your question, I'm gonna move you guys to the side and look right at everybody who's. It's not real. It's never been real. It's an effect. We have to have them.
Thank you.
We have to have effects to make this as believable as possible, but by no means should we ever think that we're actually in space, because so doing the best you can with what you have has always been the way it's been pulled off. And any one adherence to any one piece of technology probably isn't the right thing. So if you can combine with my world, with prosthetic makeups, they're great to a point, and then CG can help enhance that to bridge that gap of believability. And then if you cut immediately to something that's full CG, and then you cut back to something that's the volume, and you cut back to this, that's the best use of all of the technologies, when it just enhances any particular shot. But if you're always doing one thing, then even a less discerning audience is going to go, something's funny, it looks weird. So using all the tools smartly is the way to go. I'm never anti any piece of technology, even AI. Right now everyone's like, oh my God. And for a while, it's going to be horrendous, because they're going to want to use it for everything to see what they can really, really use it for, what its benefits are. And it's huge, and it's a game changer, and it's going to screw up a lot of things in the business. But at some point, it's like, how old are we? Remember when synthesizers started taking over the world in the 80s?
They don't.
Everything. Children, hold on. Let the old folks talk for a second.
Sorry. I'll see. I'll see myself out.
Synthesizers were everywhere. Everywhere. No matter what type of music you did, you had to have synthesizers, and it was tedious. And then at some point, they kind of like balanced out, and then you saw where they could be used, and then everyone else just kind of got back to what they were doing. I think that's how it is with any emerging technology. Now, I think AI is larger than any preceding emerging technology, for good and for bad. So it'll take a little more time for that to kind of settle out, but it'll help enhance good storytelling as well.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
I could not agree more.
Take that, naysayers. And I'm terrified of it, because it's going to do bad things too, but
it helps my students do their tests, so that drives me bonkers.
with the reliance on that for education, clearly if you want to go here briefly, I wouldn't have to go too far, but like with less than discerning populace who's been dumbed down for decades, it's going to be very easy to fool them into believing something is real when it is in fact not. So from a political standpoint and a social standpoint, danger, watch out. But for the tools in the way we're talking about them, it's going to be really interesting. Some of the stuff I'm seeing right now is like beyond impressive.
Nice.
Not that I want to be out of a job, but it's pretty cool to watch the technology develop. Not that I ever think I will be out of a job. No, there's always going to be a need for the direct human connection and seeing someone. Something of yourself reflected in someone else as you're watching this. Otherwise, what's the point? Really, what's the point? Selling something? AI is going to really live well in commercial advertising. That's going to be its wheelhouse.
Just stay there.
You be over there and just give us some pretty blinky things every once in a while. There you have it.
Awesome. Well, thank
There's
you
my complete
very
summation
much,
of the world of technology as it exists today.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much for spending the time and coming on the show.
My pleasure.
We try to keep it less than now, because again, I appreciate you're super
How'd we do?
busy. Lots going on.
Just under.
Almost at an hour.
Good.
Again, just a massive thank you from all of us at Explore the Force, Marty. Super appreciate your time. Best of luck. 100%. We need to get you back on. 100%. If you're ever down, I'll drop you a message.
Let's go. I hope it happens. Love it. Would love to do it
Vane
anytime.
series.
Yeah.
Right. We can announce it here. The Vane series.
Got a few really absurd ideas for an offshoot series. Yeah.
You guys just hush. I want to talk about Star Trek. That's it. Sorry.
Okay. Well, we can stay on if you want a couple of little Star Trek tidbits. Not that I told anyone that. We're going to be divulging some Star Trek secrets off camera. You won't get to hear.
Ooh.
Yeah, you're gonna miss out. You're gonna miss out.
Thank you guys again. If we ever run into each other out in the world, please run up and go, "Hey, it's me."
Yeah,
Remind me.
100% we will. 100%. We've
Please
got
do.
a few events coming up. Well, we've just announced we're off to Japan. Hopefully, like you were saying, hopefully, Marti, it works out
hopefully
for
as
you,
well.
and you can make.
Don't
Japan,
know as of right
definitely come
now,
over and
but
say hello.
hopefully. Yep.
Yeah. There's a couple of events in the UK before Japan. That if you're going to be over in the UK. But no, yeah. Thank you so much. There was some. That was it. One last thing. Jimmy already mentioned it. One of the other guys that normally comes on with us, Mike, it's his birthday, so we're going to try and surprise him. If you could just do a quick birthday, hello, happy birthday to Mike the mailman.
Mike, happy birthday, buddy. I hear you're a mailman. Not sure how that works, but good on you. Here's to another year,
Brilliant.
buddy.
Cheers, Marty. Super appreciate it. Like I said.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Okay, that wraps up then this week's episode. Again, thank you very much for listening. Jimmy, over to you, buddy.
Yes, again, like I said in the news and the Force Encounters, massive shout out to the listeners and viewers, helping us get to these new milestones, helping sway my mind in a nice political, nice gentle nudge in the right direction, if you will. But please, please, please make sure you're engaging, make sure you're asking questions, hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, all those things. Talk to us, ask us questions. We may not have the answers, but we're finding out that we know a lot of people who might know the answers, and we'll get them for you. But just a huge thank you to you guys. Make sure you just make this your podcast. And all you got to do is engage with us, and we will respond to you. And we'll talk and just have some fun. Just some good old-fashioned Star Wars fun.
To every single one of our listeners and our fans and all throughout our social media, a forehead kiss for you and moi. Remember, if you liked this episode, share it with your Star Wars friends and family. Follow us on all our social media platforms. All you have to do is search Explore the Force, all one word. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right. And so, for all of us, for the pirates throughout the galaxy, we have spoken. We'll see you guys next week.
Close your eyes. Feel it.
Wise as Master Yoda, as powerful as Master Windu.
They'll do their job well. I'll guarantee that.
I am going to end this once and for all.
You were the chosen one!